For the people that have the calling for Everest, it's hard to explain. It's just, you see her and you know. It became to symbolise my ultimate test. I think when you really dig down into it, that's really what it's all about. If you go onto a peak like Everest, the people that you're surrounded with need to be solid. You know, with Pete, he's focused, he's tough, he's dependable.
For me, it was years of dreaming to go and climb this mountain. I got literature on it. I went and saw movies on it. I just, went and did some climbs in Nepal, 6,000 metre peaks, and it was all about climbing Everest.
No one goes to Everest without it having been a massive, really big part of that person's life. You don't just wake up one day and think, that sounds like a great idea, I'm going to go and climb the highest mountain in the world. Well, if you're going to do that, you're going to die. We were very fortunate to have Joe as the team coach.
When you look at somebody and when you talk to somebody, you can actually really tell whether they've got a really good crack. I mean, you can get some people that will, you don't think they're going to be able to do something, but deep down they dig it up and they manage to do it. And then you've got people who you can look at them and they're ordinary people, but you know that they are capable of extraordinary things. You know that they are, if they put their mind to it, they can do virtually anything that they want to do. And Steve, I definitely think falls into that category.
I first met Joe and I said, Joe, let's just talk about this training thing. I'm committed to going. This is what's going to happen. Give me an overall picture, if you like, of what this thing. And he summed it up and he said, Steve, he said, I'm going to push you till you're vomiting and then the training's going to start.
If you were to take the average person, get them to mountain fit, bare minimum would be 12 months. Bare minimum.
Training was broken into 4 distinct phases of 3 months each. Most of my days started at about 10 to 4 in the morning, predominantly simulating what we're going to be doing on the mountain, so a lot of heavy pack training. And the pack training started at 10 kilos weight and the last 3 months were at 25 kilos weight. One of the challenges for me was overtraining, and Joe and I spent a fair bit of time on that just to try and find that balance, because it's, how do you overtrain for Everest?
We look at the loads you're going to be carrying, the type of work you're going to be doing, and train over and above that, so that when you're actually out there on the hill, what you are doing, if anything, seems easy. We do these metabolic conditioning sessions, which are just full on, and it's about not giving up. It's just going for it and just not giving up.
You have to be prepared to give it absolutely everything that you've got to even attempt the mountain. I knew jumping onto the aircraft, flying across to Kathmandu, that I wanted to know in my gut that I had done everything I possibly could to be in the best position and to be worthy.
You've got to give it 100%. If you give everything 100%, you've still got a fighting chance.
We each had probably 80 kilos of gear, each climber. This is my down suit. Incredibly important kit on a mountain like Everest. We had temperatures of about -50 in round numbers, plus wind chill, and I've got to say this was incredibly warm. This is obviously an oxygen rig. We wore these from Camp 3 and up on the actual summit bit. You need special climbing boots. The crampons just attach onto the bottom of the boot, but these boots are actually called Malay Everest model boots. They're the warmest boots in the world and they're rated to about -30. When you trek up, you've basically got the gear that you need for the trek, and the majority of your gear, of course, you don't see again until you get to base camp and hope it's all there. Kathmandu was nothing like I expected. I don't know what I was thinking. I had this vision of Kathmandu as this fairly small, slow, spiritual, tranquil type environment. And of course you walk through Kathmandu and it's just, it's chaos. It's chaos that seems to work. I mean, the driving on the street, you talk about danger on climbing Everest. I didn't think we were going to make it to our hotel. I mean, it was just amazing.
See that, the guys? See the smoke over there? That's Pashnaputana. That's where they push the bodies into the river. You see the smoke?
Yeah.
Burning bodies.
It actually smells a bit different.
Well, you've arrived in Kathmandu, so you can smell burning bodies. That's right.
Yeah, that's pretty hardcore, man.
500 metres from here.
Kathmandu's an interesting place. It's high energy. There's a diverse mix of people there. The Himalaya is very different. They're almost opposite to each other, just in terms of one's very loud and chaotic and vibrant, and of course the other is quiet and spiritual.
This is what they are offering to the monastery. And when you offer this to the Lama,
I've been fairly spiritual my life. The Everest journey's taken it to a whole new meaning. You go through the blessing ceremony, you sort of tap into a completely different headspace, if you like, for the climb. Climbing Everest is very important to the Sherpa people. The mountain's very respected. My personal attitude is when you move into a different culture that you enter that with a very open mind. I certainly did that. I had a sense going to the mountain, again in a very humble way. I was worthy to be on her slopes. I'd paid the price, if you like, was sort of my personal thought process. And she has a unique way of exposing people that haven't done the work. The financial cost is massive, it's huge. We were the expedition, so it was a little cheaper for us, if you like. Commercial expeditions can be $60,000, $70,000 US. We still paid $35 US. I understood why a lot of people put themselves into harm's way where it's probably their one shot. And obviously a lot of people don't get up the first time, but you can sort of understand people might take risks that they wouldn't normally take because the commitment is massive. The interesting thing with a trek in is you don't get to see Everest for quite some time. In fact, I remember seeing her above Namche Bazaar. We did an acclimatisation hike and I saw her for the first time.
Well, here I am at 3,850 metres, just above Namche, and I've just seen Mount Everest for the first time, and gee, she looks outstanding, I've got to tell you. A little intimidating, still a long way up, but gee, she looks fantastic.
When I went through that, I realised very quickly that I had to leave my life at home. And I sort of understood that going to the mountain, but when I saw the sheer size of Everest, and she was still 40 k's away, whatever it was, you just realised that there cannot be any part of your being that's not absolutely 110% focused on summiting.
You know that you're doing something that you have always wanted to do. For years you've wanted to do it. And you also know this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
The whole process of being blessed for a climb like Everest is very important. It's very important to the Sherpa people. It's very important to respect the mountain and work through that process. So the whole team is blessed, the Sherpas are blessed. In fact, they won't, nothing happens on the mountain, the Sherpas won't go near the mountain until they've actually worked through that process. Ronnie, our expedition leader, had said to me before we left, he said, you'll come back a completely different person from when you leave. I guess I thought about that in context of, the goal, but I completely changed. I think you go to a mountain like Everest and it's humbling. You realise that you're fairly insignificant in that landscape. The trek up to base camp was a lot harder than I anticipated. I mean, base camp is almost the same height as Kilimanjaro. It's a very high point.
Preparation for Everest we did a lot of together, including these 52-kilometre walks of getting prepared for just long, extended periods of time where you've got that weight on your back that we knew Everest was going to be. The mental strength, I think, that we got from that, well, it was good. And the camaraderie that comes with it as well.
The hike itself it's tough. You've got steep terrain. You've got days where you're going up 600-700 metres. You're not moving overly quick, but you're already at altitude. You know, you've flown into Lukla at just under 3,000 metres. So it's fair to say that by the time you get to base camp, it's already been an ordeal. I remember getting to base camp, it took us about 10 days. Each day was reasonably hard. I remember getting up to base camp, and again, I had the same thoughts. I thought, well, so we're at base camp now, that's good. I'm feeling a little tired. We haven't started the climb yet. That said, it's an amazing place. I don't think there's no photos, there's no videos that you could see that would just show the sheer size and how magnificent the Himalaya are.
Getting to the mountain with Steve, it was a buzz. It had been a big build-up, and we had done a lot of work together. So to finally pull in to 5,300 metres at base camp, it was like, wow, you know, well, it starts here.
You go through the blessing ceremonies, and we went through 3 of them. In fact, the one at base camp, you actually bless your climbing gear. I think, to be honest about it, I also knew I needed everything possible to align to help me, so I went with a very open mind. It's certainly not remotely for show at all.
As soon as you're at 5,000 metres and you start doing your forays up the hill, etc., the body starts to change very, very quickly. You start expending a lot more energy than you can put in. The body is not burning oxidising fat as easily, so it starts stripping muscle and all of that kind of stuff. So physically, I'd say you're at your peak when you hit base camp. And then it's a race against time.
The climb is really broken into 3 distinct phases, if you like. One is obviously the trek up to base camp. The next is the rotations phase, and then the summit bit itself. And the rotations phase takes 7 odd weeks at least. And what you're essentially doing is you're taking yourself from base camp up to increasing heights and then coming back down. It's just this gradual process. You know, obviously if you took someone from sea level, or in fact base camp, and put them on the summit, they'd be dead in a matter of minutes from lack of oxygen.
Well, here I am at Everest Base Camp. We've been here for about just over a week, and about 20 odd days into the 60-day journey. So behind me you can see up there the icefall. That's one of the most treacherous parts of the climb, they say. We've been up into the icefall now twice, and one was sort of a skills session. The other was we went up to about 2/3 the way up there, and just to acclimatise and come back. And interesting bit of terrain. It's seracs up there that are the size of cars or larger, hanging pretty precariously over the route, so it's not a place that you want to spend a lot of time in, I think. We've got another couple of days rest here at base camp before we head up to Camp 1. We'll be leaving at 4 a.m. on that day, which will be about the 20th, and spend a night at Camp 1, push up to Camp 2 the next day. The plan would be to spend 3 nights at Camp 2. So Camp 1's up at about 6,100 metres, and Camp 2 is about 6,400 metres. So 3 nights there, then come back to base camp for probably 3, 4, maybe 5 days rest day before the next rotation up there. Base camp here, of course, is 5,300 metres, and a little out of breath, but body's starting to acclimatise well, which is good. So, but yeah, so far, having an absolute ball.
For all the training we did, I remember my very first rotation up into the icefall, halfway up the icefall, thinking, I'm redlining. This is rotation 1. This is sort of week 1 of this thing, and I'm actually redlining here. And the mental side with Everest is it's really about, in the face of adversity, just being able to just keep pushing.
Well, here we are at Camp 1, 6,150 odd metres. What time we start, Lex? 4 a.m.
4 a.m.
Up at 3. So
How many hours?
10,
9 hours.
9 hours, 10 hours. It's big day. That ice fall's a hell of a lot bigger than what I expected. There were moments there I thought there's no way.
Past a couple of avalanches, eh?
Yeah, there's a couple of avalanches on the left as we're coming up.
Yeah.
I found the last 100 metres or so in vertical height. I was breaking it down into sort of 10 steps, have a rest, breathe.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, so, and we just beat this blizzard. I've just noticed. Have a look out here. Let's see what the weather's doing. Whoa! Better shut that up again. Well, here we are at Camp 2. Got here yesterday and feeling not too bad. We're up at 6,450 metres. Been a massive couple of days. The day before yesterday we pushed up to Camp 1 from base camp. Massive day in the icefall. Massive day. Yesterday we started at 5:30 in the morning. Got up and we pushed up here to Camp 2, and so we've climbed from 5,350 metres up to 6,450, so it's 1,100 metres, which is probably about 3,500 feet in 2 days. It's not to be underestimated though. It's certainly a fantastic challenge.
I remember getting into Camp 2, and I literally get out of my tent, just walk over and stand there and look at this massive face that is basically the face of Everest. It's an incredible place to be. It really is. For some, it'd be the worst place in the world to ever be. It's cold, you've got headaches, you're thirsty, you know, you feel unsafe at times. But for those who have studied it and dreamt about climbing it and made that their goal in life, there's no better place that you could be in the world.
It's our third and final day at Camp 2 on our first rotation. I'm starting to come good. Been pretty nauseous and headaches and all the usual joys at altitude, but just starting to come good. I've got to say I'm certainly looking forward to going back to base camp for 5 days rest day and to recuperate. I haven't been able to eat very much at all. I sort of had a few soups and I suppose half a plate of plain pasta last night. So Jenny Craig, eats your heart out.
Yeah, look, the food, I think by the time you get to the climb, there's not a lot that's going to faze you anyway. The food that you're having is predominantly carbs, potatoes, rice, the biggest, greasiest hash browns you've ever seen in your life. You think a lot more primitively than we would probably think at sea level. For me, it was literally, I'm dropping weight, there's energy going out, I just need to stuff as much fuel as I possibly can into my system when it will let me stick it into my system and continue on.
Calories burnt at altitude are phenomenal. You know, you can get people burning between 5,000 and 8,000 calories a day, which are huge amounts, which is why everybody, when they come back down from the mountain, loses weight, no matter what size they were before. They're going to lose a lot, and they'll lose both fat and muscle. So they've got to get their nutrition right on the hill, and they've got to have sufficient conditioning to be able to do the job at hand.
Here we are back at base camp after rotation 1. First rotation was good. Went up to Camp 1, Camp 2, and spent a number of nights at Camp 2, then back here. On Friday we're heading up to Camp 1, Camp 2, and then Camp 3 on our second rotation. So this will be an important one. Camp 3 will take us up to about 3/4 way up the Lopsy face and up to about 7,300 metres. We won't be sleeping on oxygen that night. Of course, on the summit push we will be on oxygen from Camp 3, but the idea is to acclimatise the body, spend a night, come back down to Camp 2 and then push back to base camp, and then we'll go lower than base camp for about a week to really recoup the body, getting sorted for our summit bid. All in all, feeling pretty good. A little bit of a cough, but certainly it's amazing a few days back down at this sort of altitude, even though it's still quite high at 5,300 metres, but it's amazing how the body acclimatises once you've got a bit higher.
Almost every step, certainly every 100 metres, is like a new wall. It's this new, I've hit a new level now. This is getting seriously hard again, another 100 metres higher, this is getting harder again, sort of thing.
Here we are at Camp 1. Got up from base camp at 3 a.m. and up on the icefall at 4. Got here to Camp 1 at 12. So it was 8 hours. Last time was 9.5 hours. So I'm pretty happy with that. Shaved an hour and a half off our time. The icefall was as treacherous as usual. I thought I may not make it today. I was up on the very last section of the icefall, which is vertical, up on there's 3 ladders end for end, and I was halfway up that section, a couple of Sherpas behind me, and there was this almighty crack. It was like a scary crack sound. I thought, shit, potentially this is it. Here I am hanging on 3 ladders, and it's about to hang on 3 ladders 100 feet in the air, and this thing's about to go over backwards on me. And I pushed up those ladders as hard as I could. Anyway, I'm here, but it's a great reminder that the icefall is a living, breathing, moving thing, and it's not a place that you want to play very often. So I'll spend tonight here, up to Camp 2 tomorrow. It's back up to 6,500 metres. All in all, though, it's still a momentous journey. It lives up to every book, every reputation, every innuendo that you ever hear about this mountain. It's just a slog. You've got to confront your own mortality and fears almost daily, like today. So it's not something I'd recommend for the faint-hearted. Cheers for now.
Base camp calling Camp 1, do you copy over?
Yeah, Camp 1, copy, over.
Steve, just wondering how your afternoon went, over.
Mate, very relaxing, thanks very much, over.
Steve, are you on your own, over?
That's affirmative, over.
Is the plan for anyone to come down and meet you in the morning, over?
Negative. I don't think so, Ronnie. I just said I'll punch out at about 0800 and head up to Camp 2, over.
That's good, Steve. Well, take it easy and have a good evening.
It's about 30 days into the expedition. I had my night at Camp 1 by myself, and a little bit nippy. It was about -9 in the tent. I recorded that was about midnight. I went to sleep after that, but so I don't know what got down to. Had a pretty good night's sleep. I woke up a lot thinking about what happened in the icefall yesterday. I don't mind telling you, it scared the crap out of me. I really thought I was done for. it was a scary thing. You know, I guess you question, why would you come and climb Mount Everest? Why would you come and do something so seemingly unreasonable? I guess you know, it's been with me my whole life. I'm committed to doing it, but when things like yesterday happen, you question. I think you question it. I think you question, am I being responsible to, in particular, my daughter, you know, who's only 7, and she needs her dad around. But anyway, I plan to come back, okay, and I'll be glad when that icefall work is over. Anyway, I'll continue brewing my brew. And it's a beautiful day outside. You can see out there okay. And I'll probably catch up with you at Camp 2.
You could get up there for all the training, for all the preparation and everything in the world. You could get an unlucky break, the weather breaks, and you know, you don't get past Camp 2, you know, and then you know, you're back down.
Today's Sunday the 2nd of May, and here at Camp 2. Got up here yesterday, and you can see with the weather, we're a bit hunkered down today. Can't go anywhere. Ronnie was still waiting to push up from base camp. He was supposed to push up this morning, but the same conditions have got in base camp, so a bit too treacherous to be going up through the icefall, and a lot of crevasses will be covered over, etc. They try and do that today. So anyway, another day of rest here at Camp 2, and next time we come back up, it'll be for real. We just got back to base camp a couple of days ago. Finished our first rotation, second rotation. Been down to Debouché, the rest, for 4 days. So we've gone for about 6 days from base camp, which was good. Got down to about 3,700 metres, so feeling pretty strong. So we're just waiting back in base camp now for the weather window. The weather's pretty crap at the moment. There's been some teams that have been up at Camp 2. There was a suggestion there might be a weather window on the 17th of May in 2 days' time, but that appears too dangerous. The jet stream's hovering around, and the winds are sort of 80 to 100 k's an hour, which is far too strong. You just get blown off the mountain at that speed. So they're retreating now. Some of those teams are coming back to base camp, and others are hunkering down at Camp 2. We've had reports of tents getting demolished at Camp 3, and in fact there was a bunch of tents at Camp 2, in fact, that got demolished apparently, or away. So now we play the waiting game. So it's the monsoon's bearing down on us. So apparently we're going to start to see some precipitation from the 24th of May. So yeah, it's all pretty tight, but said feeling strong and certainly ready to go.
Most Westerners probably wouldn't be successful on a mountain like Everest without Sherpa support. They put their own life in harm's way to protect us on the mountain. I certainly saw numerous examples of that. They're an incredible people. I mean, the bond I formed with particularly Lakpa Rangdu, who was our Serdar, our head Sherpa, and I ended up doing a lot of my climbing high in the mountain with him. We have a bond for life that you probably can't explain fully. They're just an incredibly happy, vibrant people.
Today's D-Day. Tomorrow we leave at 3 a.m. to make our summit bid. Weather today is looks pretty good, but the winds upstairs are still being pretty strong. So yeah, so just getting packed, getting sorted, sort of feels a little bit like going to war, or what I imagine that would be in terms of packing. There's some teams that went up yesterday and they got hammered. There's been some summits, which has been good. There's another lady that died South Col yesterday, which was pretty sad. We saw a couple of bodies helicoptered out yesterday at breakfast time, straight over base camp and out. So you see this stuff and it's unsettling. So keeping focused, ready to give it the best shot of my life. I've experienced some hard things in my life, but I've got no doubt that this will be probably the hardest. So up to Camp 2 tomorrow, 3 a.m. Rest day at Camp 2 the next day, up to Camp 3, 7,200 metres the next day, onto the oxygen, up to Camp 4, South Col, the following day, and summit bid will leave 9 p.m. on the 22nd, hopefully summiting the morning the 23rd. So 2 months prep, well, I should say years of prep, but 2 months sitting here at base camp, doing some rotations and getting prepped and ready for a massive adventure. Cheers for now. Here we are at Camp 3. We're just about to head up the Lopsy face to the South Col, and we've come last night, yesterday, from Camp 2.
From Camp 2.
Camp 2 right down there, which is about
Big Valley.
1,000 metres below us.
It's such a high pressure occasion. It is all down to one night. Years of dreaming, 12 months of hard physical training, 2 months of climbing this mountain, and we are down to literally one night to climb to the summit.
Looking forward to having a go at that. Come on, have a look at it. Come on in. Well, here we are at Camp 4, South Col, the edge of the death zone, as they say, which is about 8,000 metres. We came up today from Camp 3, which was about 7,200 metres, and the day before that from Camp 2, which was 6,500 metres up to 7,200 metres. So time now is 3 o'clock. We got here about 1 o'clock. We made good time, actually, surprisingly. But we've been on the oxygen since Camp 3. Certainly made a big difference. We're punching out of here at 7 o'clock, I think, something like that, for about a 10-hour push up to the summit. We're brewing up, taking some fluids on board. I think fluids, besides the lack of atmosphere, lack of fluid, is a big challenge up here. So I'm resolved to try and drink probably 3 or 4 litres before we punch out. But that's it from the South Col. I better put these eyes back on because it's 1/3 the atmosphere up here and you feel it bloody quickly. So, this one's done. Like that. I'm good to go. See you later.
I had a few challenges on the summit bit. Lines are moving slowly. We're sort of taking a step, and then you rest for a number of seconds, and there'll be another step. And between each step, it was like something was trying to make me fall asleep, but not like a fatigue sleep. This was like a scary, nasty, something's trying to snuff me out. And I just remember thinking in my brain, don't sit down, don't shut your eyes, you'll die. That's all I remember thinking, and I had this massive fight on. It was scary. It's night time. We're high up on the mountain. It's probably minus 40, minus 50 by this stage. Just kicking my feet. I was shouting at myself. I was slapping my face. And fortunately, one of our Sherpas who was up at the balcony, had been stationed up there, was in front of me. All I remember is he bent me over aggressively and then just looked up and he said, no oxygen, no oxygen. And he got me off the line, and we got up to the balcony and switched tanks, and immediately I felt semi-conscious.
My head was so spun out through lack of oxygen, I actually thought I saw fireworks. This is what goes on in the brain, and this is no joke. I thought, wow, really, there's some celebration tonight in Tibet. Isn't this fair? And I thought, hang on, 3,000, you can't send fireworks that high. Let's go. And on it went. What it was headlights on a very black background, but my brain was trying to make sense of it, and it became fireworks.
We pushed up from Camp 3 to Camp 4 on the 22nd, and so started about 6:30 in the morning and got up to the 8,000 metre mark, Camp 4. I think it was about 1 in the afternoon.
Getting to the summit itself, I remember those last few steps. I remember them clearly. And I don't know, how do you describe a 25-year journey? You know, it's a culmination of all of that in the last 4 or 5 steps. You know, it was incredible. The stories they tell you about seeing the curvature of the earth, it's all true. You've got no doubt you're at the highest point in the planet. There is absolutely no doubt. You also realise that most of the people that die on the way down, not the way up. And so I had this overwhelming sense of, okay, keep it together. You're halfway. Every step's got to be right. There was a sense of, we wanted to be excited. You know, we're all grouped together, but we just really didn't let it sink in.
Got back to Camp 4, South Col at 2 in the afternoon, 2:30, and basically slept, drank, very dehydrated. We just couldn't drink on the way up basically for 12 hours, and the other 4 hours coming down, 5 hours coming down, I drank about a half a litre. It's about a half a litre for 16 hours, so not the best, but so drank and slept, and then this morning we got up and we left about 8 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock now, so it's taken us 7 hours to get back to Camp 2, but out of the death zone and a little safer. Only got to push down to Camp 1 and through the ice fall again one more time, but that should go okay. What an amazing journey. Certainly a lot tougher than I expected. The training I've done the last year, 18 months, has been pretty intense, and that put me in good stead. But certainly the toughest day of my life, and the realisation of a 25-year dream, and just an amazing experience.
I remember getting across the last ladder and the ice fall. I remember it vividly, and I thought, okay, nothing can kill you now. I think you're right.
We're
punching out of base camp today. So what a journey. You know, it's 60 days, 29,000 feet, minus 40, 50 degrees, lots of challenge, lots of growth. I think the one bit of advice I'd give coming out of this experience is that, you know, anything that you want to achieve, no matter what your Everest is, you hang on to it hard. I've had this goal for 25 years. I've had lots of distraction. I've had lots of people that, whether consciously or subconsciously, I guess they tell you not to aspire to too much, not to dream too big of goals. I can tell you from this experience, don't ever let go of your goal. You hang on to it hard. I'm a pretty average bloke, but just living some big dreams and hanging on to them hard. And most important thing I think coming out of this is you believe in yourself. Just doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, you believe in yourself. That's the most important thing. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the little documentary I've put together, and who knows, might see you on the next adventure. Bye bye.